I'm ready to run through a brick wall right now.
Heck yeah.
It's the Friday Night Drive podcast, South and West Edition. I'm DeKalb Daily Chronicle sports editor Eddie Carifio. I'm alongside Shaw Media regional sports editor JT Pedelty. How do you not be pumped after that video, dude?
Oh, I've been pumped for football season here for quite a few weeks here. And as it gets wetter, the weather took that little bit of a turn where it feels like kind of reasonable outside. It just, the evenings almost feel like football weather. And the other day we were talking about best pork chop sandwiches in our editors meeting. So I'm ready to go. I'm ready to hit the field, Eddie. I will probably stay on the sideline and not get hit by a bunch of people who are in shape. But other than that, I am ready to go.
So where are we going first? Why don't we start down your way?
That sounds good, man. Got a really interesting one. I don't even know. I think it'll be a good one. But it's so tough telling because there's no real metrics for it. We got Wilmington and Morris. Wilmington visiting Morris. Very close together geographically speaking. Both excellent football programs. Morris, obviously a much larger school than Wilmington, or significantly larger school than Wilmington. But, the defending Illinois Central 8 conference champions have a lot to replace from last year's state semifinalists, that being Wilmington. But they have Ryan Kettman back, who was their leading rusher last season, and a few of the guys up front who led the way for them. And then, you have Morris on the other side. They got 14 starters back when you include both sides of the ball, including quarterback Brady Varner, who and they always have a great defense. So, Eddie, for all of our talk on all of the downside of, the way the conference system is set up and the scheduling system set up, man, it makes for some long road trips. It makes for a lot of forfeits. I have, of the 8 football playing teams in the Ottawa, Streeter, Seneca area that I manage down here, 2 of them have buys week 1 because of forfeits, which is crazy. Dwight and Flanagan, Cornell, Woodland, and 8-man. But you know what? Sometimes it forces them to get creative with scheduling, and I like this creativity. I'm excited to see what happens Wilmington at Morris.
I'm just going to very briefly say that with a district type format, there would still be some creativity with your 2 free games at the start. If it was an 18, it was a 18 district, 7 games, 2 non-conference games, you could still have games like this. That said, I agree with you 100% about the this one jumping out, obviously, to semifinalists from last year, Morris.
Both semifinalists,
really good this year.
Yeah, both of them played the week before Thanksgiving. They both played 13 games last year. So yeah, and Morris got hot down the stretch. They lost quite a bit. Wilmington lost quite a bit, but they both also have some key players back. So I think this is interesting. The one thing with district, I feel like let's dive right into it. But the one thing with districts is you could have a couple games that really don't count in the standings or sort of count or whatever weird way they're doing it. The way it's set up now, and I don't think this is an ideal thing, but I think, Wilmington's kind of getting its arm twisted because nobody wants to play them when you need a week 1 win to start down a playoff road. And so they have to play a school that's, at a 5A competitor as opposed to, Wilmington's a 2A, 3A. So, it's not a game they probably are excited to schedule, but I think it's a game they're excited to play, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because it's obvious. I'm just really curious with Wilmington. Like you said, the small school differential here. I mean, God, my gut's saying Morris on this one because, like I said, I think Morris is. I know they did lose a bunch, but they're bringing back 14 starters, which any year for high school, that's pretty good if you could bring that many back. They're always really strong. They're obviously going to be toward the top of the I-8 again last year. They're going to be hungry to, face Rochelle and Sycamore again after they got last year. And like you said, this is what starts that season off on that foot. So,
yeah, I know Morris has played Coal City the past couple years for week 1, and Coal City and Wilmington, obviously very similar programs in the same conference. Their game, I think it's at week 9 this year. Foreshadowing. But I think it's in week 9 this year, so that's already circled on a lot of calendars. Very, very comparable programs, very good teams. The past handful of years, Wilmington's maybe just been a half notch above Coal City. Coal City's hung with Morris. I think a lot of those games, if I remember correctly, went to where, it was a 1-score game at halftime or something like that, and then Morris kind of wore him down in the 4th quarter and pulled away for a double-digit victory. I don't know that they'll be able to do that with Morris. It'll be or with Wilmington. It'll be interesting to see. I think you're right. Smart money's on Morris, but I definitely wouldn't count Wilmington out because, sometimes you get that little brother chip on your shoulder when you play those bigger schools, and man, we can make a statement here. And Morris is, hate to say this, but a lot of people say expected to win. So, I think it's going to be a really good football game, and hopefully all the way till the final whistle. I know you have one that you have circled on your calendar already every year, week 1, when you have your 2 biggest markets in your area, I think, or biggest schools in your market, DeKalb and Sycamore facing off.
Oh, I thought you were talking Oregon GK. But yeah, no, DeKalb Sycamore is a big one too.
But yeah, DeKalb Sycamore, I mean, that's got to be one that, week 1, I have to wait till week 2 for my Streeter Ottawa. Week 1, you get your DeKalb Sycamore. How's that looking this year?
Yeah, no, it's since they separated conferences, when the NIB dissolved, was that 2019? I think they started playing week 1. It might have been after the pandemic they started playing it week 1, but I love this game starting off the year. I don't know how much the coaches like starting the year off with this one. We saw that last year. It was an incredibly close, exciting game. Sycamore was up 14-0. Josiah Mitchell, who's back this year, returned the kick for the opening kickoff for a touchdown. Sycamore went up 14-0. DeKalb led 28-14 in the fourth. They were up 28-21 after the strangest punch you'll ever see, where a ball bounced off the Sycamore player's head. DeKalb recovered with about 6 minutes left. Okay, they're going to run this out. They've been airing the ball out, and they end up falling 35-28. So it was just a really, really incredible game last year. This year, really interesting. DeKalb has a lot back, especially on offense, especially in their passing game. Sycamore loses a ton, especially in their secondary and passing game. Sycamore probably still on paper's the favorite, but I think it's going to be a lot closer. I mean, it's always close, but I think DeKalb has a lot better chance of winning this game than maybe a lot of people might think. I mean, I still, the FND pick still Sycamore, and that's still where I would lean toward. But I think DeKalb's got a really good chance of getting the upset, if you want to call it that.
I'm always kind of, I'm quite a few miles, about an hour, a little over an hour down Route 23 from DeKalb, but they have a fan. They have a fan down here just because of their head coach Derek Schneeman, who's a Streeter graduate, led Streeter's football program to their only playoff win they still have in program history. I'm sure he wishes that weren't the case, but coached them in Pony League baseball. So I love that. I was going to say kid, love that man. And hopefully the Barbs are kind of getting things kind of turned around. I feel like they've kind of been on the precipice now. It feels like for a few years where a lot of balls have, and the helmet bounce obviously helped them, but a lot of weird bounces, a lot of things didn't go their way, and then things kind of spiraled. And I would love to see them kind of break through this year.
Yeah, it was unfortunate because they looked so good, obviously, in that Sycamore game against the Sycamore team that won their first 11 games. So a really good Sycamore team, but then, they start 0-8 and go through that really tough year that they had last year. A lot of that was, it was really hard for them to get the running game going. I mean, the passing game obviously led with the receiver, Illinois commit Devon Grant is really good. Cole Latimer is now in his 3rd year starting, throwing the ball to Grant. Darian Strawder's played 2 years at receiver. There's some other pieces there. Schneeman had said he's really liked what he's seen out of the running game. I think Dior Cannon's either a junior or senior. He's going to be the lead back this year. New one. Travis Moore took some carries last year. He's that very common combination you see of a defensive lineman / running back. So, by the way, son of the
those guys are fun to tackle.
Yeah, he's the son of the NIU defensive line coach of the same name. For whatever that's worth. So we'll see what their running game could do. Obviously, Sycamore is always able to run the ball. Weren't last year. DeKalb actually held them to like 120 rushing yards. DeKalb threw for over, I think it was like 420 something yards last year. And I think they're set up for big numbers like that. They can limit the turnovers. They can force, Sycamore to throw the ball, because I think they want to be a lot more of a running team this year, just with the pieces they have. That, like I said, I think they got a chance.
Shameless plug time, Eddie. And just because we were talking about DeKalb and Derek Schneeman, I loved the series you did on Friday Night Drive this year. I think it published maybe earlier this month.
During the deadline.
July, earlier this month. but about coaches' favorite play calls from their careers and kind of what set that up. If anyone's into football and just kind of wants to hear kind of what goes through a coach's head when a play is being called, and why, maybe why the Seahawks threw that ball at the 1 yard line. That's a bad play call gone wrong. But what goes through a coach's mind and why maybe they go. So many of them were coaches kind of going against their tendencies, going against what teams had seen on film, going against what usually works for them. And I just found that fascinating. It's a great read. So for anyone who would be interested in kind of reading about that, you can find it on FridayNightDrive.com. It's a fantastic thing. I was going to maybe pivot down our way. 1A, we got what's always a good matchup to open the season between two 1A perennial playoff teams. We got Ottawa Marquette. They finished 6-5 last year. Aurora Christian finished 5-5. Aurora Christian actually won that game last year, got the better of Marquette 24-19 to open the season. But Marquette kind of got the last laugh. They got a playoff win, and the Eagles did not. They lost in the first round to, I think it was Leroy. I always like this matchup. Marquette will be interesting. They have a new head coach. Tom Yepst is retired. So Ken Carlson, the defensive coordinator, takes over, and Marquette has like 7 returning starters on defense. So, I think that, they like to ground it out, wing T offense. But, defense is a calling card for Ken Carlson. I think it will be for this Marquette team going against an Aurora Christian team that has, Asa Johnson, the quarterback. But he threw for almost 2,500 yards last year, 24 touchdowns. Those are like, guys you draft in fantasy football in the NFL type numbers. That defense against that offense, I think that's going to be a key matchup in this one. And it's almost always a close game. I think a couple years ago, maybe Aurora Christian got away from Marquette. But I think this is going to be a real good one and kind of set the trajectory for one of these two teams.
Yeah, no, this is, like you said, this is always a fun one. And I love the different, the dynamics of it at play. You got the two private schools obviously going against each other. You've got the rural grounded out wing, all on the ground versus the more modern suburban, air it out type thing. And it's always a close one. So it is a literal coin flip game, right?
Yeah, I think this one really could go either way. I guess just from continuities standpoint and Aurora Christian being at home, you probably lean towards them. They won last year. They have their stud player back. They have the same coaching staff, whereas Marquette, new coach going on the road. But I would not be at all surprised if Marquette came out and, we talked about chips on shoulders. I'd be surprised if they're not, saying to themselves, everyone thinks we're going to fall off a cliff now that Coach Yepst is gone. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if they came out and kind of had that chip on their shoulder and really took it to them in a physical game. There's another Chicagoland Prairie team, one of the 4 that's left, facing off.
You're trying to bait me, aren't you?
Nope, not at all. With a really good week 1 matchup, Seneca, 9-2 last year, Chicagoland Prairie champions. They are hosting, Eddie, the defending Class 2A state champion, Chicago Christian, who finished 13-1 last year. Kind of a Cinderella story, but I don't know. I mean, can it be a Cinderella story if Cinderella just beats the crap out of the 3 wicked stepsisters and the mean stepmom? Because they really didn't have that many close games in the postseason. They roared.
Yeah, no, probably not a Cinderella story. I would say for other reasons. Obviously, private schools. I think that might eliminate that too. I know. Send your letters to JT Pedelty at shawmedia.com. No, this is another really good matchup. Seneca, boy, do they have a chance to make a statement early. Man, do they really have a chance? That's all I'm saying about this one. It's like,
yeah, Seneca's really
not my wheelhouse, but
their non-conference schedule now with just 3 conference games. Now that the conference is down to 4 teams, they had to find 6 games on the schedule, and of those 6 games, 4 are playoff teams from last year. The combined record of their 6 non-conference opponents last year was 41-22. It includes a state champion. I think it includes Genoa-Kingston from up your way. They added Sangamon Valley in week 2 to fill in for. They had a game against Lyle, and they replaced that with another playoff team. So it's just really, and then I think later in the year, St. Joe Ogden is going to be an awesome one. So Seneca going to test themselves. This one, Chicago Christian, they lost a lot from that state championship team. I don't want to say they came out of nowhere. Like you said, it's a private school and everyone knew they had a lot of good players, but I don't think they were on a lot of Seuss's, preseason projections to be playing after Thanksgiving. So, but it's no mystery what Seneca will be. You're not real sure on Chicago Christian. Seneca, they're smash mouth, power T, corn-fed, offensive line, defensive line football. They got to replace a lot of those skill guys, but they have a lot of those guys up front back. So I think Seuss picks Seneca as our official Friday night drive pick, and I think I agree with that. I think it'd be a good statement. And then, when week 2 rolls around and I think Seneca goes down to Clinton, a larger school that they've played in the past, I think to fill in a possible forfeit week. And I just think, Seneca's one of those teams that kind of like nearby Dwight, I could really see them making a run this year if things fell right.
I was going to ask you about that because it seems like they're set up to have a really strong year. Last year obviously really good. It looks like they're maybe able to build off of that.
Yeah, it's tough knowing with Seneca because are you talking about Seneca or Dwight?
Seneca.
Either one really. But you talk about Seneca, they lost a lot of their skill position guys, their quarterback who's, one of the best basketball players in school history, which is saying something at Seneca if you know their history with basketball, boys and girls. They have a lot to replace at the skill position, but they have a lot in place. And I think Terry Maxwell, the head coach, has just developed a system there. I think it's one of those programs like back when I was a kid growing up or when I first broke into this business, you had a Geneseo some of these kids, you might walk by them and not think anything of it. That's just a high school kid, but they get in pads and they get on a football field and they're just a machine out there. And I think Terry Maxwell's starting to build that in Seneca. And I think this week they'll have a great opportunity to show that.
I think on that note, we're going to take a quick break. Some messages from some sponsors this year. So I think we're going to do that. And then I think we're going to you mentioned GK. I think that's a good place to go as next as any.
Sounds good to me. And don't forget our special guest coming up soon.
Yes.
I like Reich.
I like Reich.
Since 2016, it's been my privilege to represent the people of the 63rd District. I want to continue representing you as an independent voice in Springfield.
I like Reich. We like Reich.
SGKR Injury Attorneys tackles the toughest cases. I'm Matt Rundio. When life throws a flag, we go on offense to protect your rights. Don't get sidelined. Score a touchdown with SGKR. Visit us at sgkr.law.
At Oliver's, we are proud to serve our community. We serve up great customer service, quality products, ease of shopping, and we serve up delicious barbecued sandwiches at our fundraiser cookouts. So stop by Oliver's, 748 North Brinton and Dixon, and help fund our local clubs and events.
Okay, so we're bringing in Sam Ramirez. Sam, how's it going, buddy?
Yeah, you caught me off guard there. I was backstage sort of fixing my glasses, and all of a sudden, there I was on the screen. So it's good to be back. It's good to be talking high school football with you guys.
So JT had brought up GK before the break. I know this was one you seemed interested in. I know there's some higher profile ones, but we'll start with Oregon GK. This one intrigues the bejesus out of me. This looks like, these 3 teams in the BNC go 5-4, and then 5-5 last year. This is 2 of them. GK gets Stillman next week. The other one, it seems like this is the sort of thing that's going to be like a week 9 type importance game kicking off the season.
Yeah, you hate to say games in week 1 feel like a playoff game because it's so early in the season, but this game sort of has that feel because I know last year Oregon pulled out a 3-0 win over Genoa-Kingston, and if Oregon had not won that game last year, they would have went 4-5 instead of going 5-4. And the thing about this rivalry, Genoa-Kingston has won 5 of the last 6, and what's ironic about that, Oregon struggles to score against Genoa-Kingston. In the last 6 games, Oregon has scored a grand total of 24 points in those 6 games. It's really been a series lopsided headed towards Genoa-Kingston. And I tell you, just for whatever reason, it seems like Oregon struggles against the Cogs. Last year, as I mentioned, they did beat Genoa-Kingston 3-0, but Oregon's offense, for whatever reason, struggles against that Cogs defense over the last 6 games.
To be fair, a lot of teams that aren't Byron or Dixon tend to struggle against that Genoa-Kingston defense. I don't think Byron or Dixon really struggle with anybody when they're on.
No, but what's interesting about this matchup, though, for Oregon is they do bring back a lot of skill players, guys like Cooper Johnson and Keaton Salisbury, and they got a couple of a couple of now juniors that'll be stepping up in the backfield. But the one big question about Oregon this year is that offensive line, and Coach Kunder really feels like he has some guys that he can put on that line to fill in for guys who graduated last year, because they did lose some pretty good linemen from last year. So, as with most teams, I think that's the key for Oregon going into week one.
I think GK is a little bit of flip of that. Their line's pretty good coming back. I know Mason McPeak was solid last year. Try saying that 5 times.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah. He was solid last year. He's back. I think there's 3 or 4 returning starters along that line. They're going to have a new quarterback. I know obviously not going to throw the ball a ton, but they're keeping it under wraps who it is. They're going to be Cody Cravata or Jaden Lee. I think probably you're going to see Cravata there just because I think Jaden Lee gives them more flexibility running the ball, and then that lets them. Coach Cam Davico said he really wants to keep Owen Zakar, a linebacker, and another one of their wingbacks fresh this year, keep him healthy. So if like Lee's able to get some carries, that'll take the load off of him. So I'm kind of like you said, the opposite of the Oregon situation there, where their line's solid, but those other players, it's we'll see how that fills into place.
And I'm broadcasting that game on Friday night. So usually what I do during the week is I always send an email to the other coach asking for a roster and asking for starters. And this week when I asked for the starters, I thought there's no chance, Sam, you're getting the starters, because I know Cam, he's really trying to keep the starting quarterback under wraps as to who will be starting Friday night. But I think with either guy they go with, the other guy will go on the backfield. So it's a pretty good, I think, 1-2 punch that GK will have in the backfield.
I know, Eddie, you mentioned, or I'm sorry, Eddie, I know you mentioned to me that you kind of thought this first couple games really is just so pivotal for Genoa-Kingston because of what's awaiting them later in the season.
Yeah, you look at it and, again, they're coin flip games. They're all teams that went 5-5 last year. They're teams that historically play each other, even though GK's won 5 of the 6. You see last year, 3-0. They could go either way. I think Stillman Valley's probably had similar luck against Genoa that Genoa's had against Oregon. But GK goes 2-0 in this stretch, and that's excellent. They go 0-2, and things it might be a long season for them. So these first 2 weeks, it's a really unique situation. I think they're not common anyway situation that Genoa finds themselves in this year with that.
And I know another game that Sam, you had mentioned talking about was Lena Winslow at Forreston, another Friday night game. Obviously a fierce rivalry, and hoping for another good one.
Yeah, longtime rivalries. And, there were many years that the champion of the conference really had to go through, whether it was Forreston or Lena Winslow, they had to go through their rival. I know Forreston the last couple of years hasn't been the same Forreston team that we have seen in the past, but you guys were talking about early season schedules. Lena Winslow, right off the bat, they got their rival Forreston. Week 2, they take out a very good Stockton team. And then in week 3, they go to Rochelle. That's tough right off the bat for Lena Winslow. So for them to be opening up against their rival, I still think they go on the road and get the win, obviously. Number 1 ranked team, and obviously everybody knows the tradition at Lena Winslow. But to have to face Forreston, I still think there's certain games when you see 2 schools that are matched up against one another, you get excited, even if one team maybe hasn't had the success over the last couple of years. Forreston, to me, is still a fun rivalry.
And then I know one more you guys wanted to touch on, at least if we got, is Princeton Newman, obviously. This, I know it's Princeton's been winning the series lately, correct? And I know that's the FND pick, but it still should be. I mean, despite that, like with GK Oregon, it's one of those. The ball's been bouncing one team's way, but either team can get this game if I'm not mistaken.
I know Princeton lost a lot from last year, but when you bring back a guy like Casey Etheridge, that's a good guy to be bringing back. I think he rushed for about 2,000 yards last year, and covering Oregon, I saw Princeton in that playoff game in round 1, and that's a good Princeton team. And they do have some talent coming back, as were Newman. They have a 3-year starter in Evan Bushman coming back. They got George Youngerman. They got Matt Blackert coming back. Newman has a really good junior class, and this is one of those classes where ever since they've been in middle school, They've been waiting for this group to kind of climb through the ranks, and this is the Newman Junior class, and the Comets are ranked 4th in the preseason rankings. So again, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. It'll be over in Sterling, and you're right, Princeton has won 5 in a row, and I think that's a chip on Newman's shoulder going into that game Friday.
And I know reading Kevin Klum's, our coworker Kevin Klum's preview for the LaSalle News Tribune area, or Western LaSalle County, however you want to look at it. But I know he mentioned that that Newman also has a notable transfer that came in from Morrison, Rylan Alvarado, who was a running back at Morrison, a state track star on multiple relay teams and whatever. So, obviously you add anyone who can run to a Sterling Newman offense, and that's a pretty nice fit. Now, I don't know, for all I know, he's 17th on the depth chart or atop it. I do not know, but I know he's an interesting name to throw out there. Anytime you can add a speed guy, coming on jet sweeps at a school like Newman, that, makes all the difference.
Yeah, Newman usually traditionally has the big bruising back, and then they usually like to find the speedster. And whether it's the kid who came in from Morrison or whether it's somebody they already had in the backfield, I think anytime you can add some sort of state champion track runner to your backfield at a school like Newman that traditionally likes to run the ball, that's only going to help that offense out.
And also interesting here, this is a matchup. If I told you one of these teams won their conference last year and one of them didn't, we all know because we, we're paid to know. But yeah, Newman won their half of the Three Rivers, the Rock division, and Princeton ended up getting upset, one bad game, and ended up second place in the Mississippi. So, this one doesn't count in any conference standings. It's a crossover game, but I've read so many things from Kevin Hieronymus, who does an excellent job covering the Princeton Tigers beat. And I've read so many things from him. I get the sense in Princeton, they're still mad about that. It's been 11 months. And I get the feeling that still just irks them that they lost a conference game. So, you mentioned they lost a lot, but I mean, that's one thing they didn't lose is the memory of that. And, Ryan Pearson does a great job with that program. And we'll see, but it should be I think another great season in Princeton despite the losses.
So that Oregon game I was telling you about last year when we went down to Princeton for the playoff game, I wasn't probably no more 3-4 minutes in the press box when a couple of guys in the press box started talking to me about that Monmouth-Roseville game. And you're right, I think they were very upset that they lost that game. And Monmouth-Roseville, Princeton will meet in week 5 this year, probably for a conference title.
And if we're ever going to talk about an 8-man game, a rematch of the state championship game in week 1 seems like a good moment for that, Sam.
I know the thing about our Sauk Valley here area where you guys are bringing me in from, there's a lot of hype about this Milledgeville Amboy 8-man football game. Clippers have won back-to-back state championships. Last year, they beat Milledgeville pretty easily in the state title game, but the Missiles return a lot of firepower, a lot of returning starters from last year's team, where Amboy, I believe they only returned 3 starters on offense, 4 on defense. Now, don't let those numbers fool you. There's only 8 on both sides of the ball, but still they have to replace a quarterback like Eddie Jones. And I know Amboy's JV team, and you can take it for what it's worth, but they just throttled everybody they faced last year in 8-man football at the JV level. And don't be surprised if you see a couple of thousand fans packed at the Harbor Friday night down in Amboy. It might be 8-man football, but to those towns, it's still everything.
Yeah, I got to cover a game at Amboy. Flanagan Cornell Woodland was up there for I think a second-round playoff game 2 years ago. And but what a great environment there. I hadn't been there since Amboy had moved to 11-man. I probably hadn't been there in the 21st century. So it was really cool being there, and then the setup they have and just the enthusiasm around it. I always tell people when they ask about 8-man football, when you get there, you notice the field's a little skinnier, and you notice that it looks more wide open because there's fewer kids. And about 2 plays in, you forget anything about it. It's just a football game.
I was curious about the crowd size. It's great that the 8-man crowds. It's good to hear that they're still, obviously this is, this literal state championship level game, but it's still nice that, they're drawn in this way.
I was at the Polo Milledgeville state semifinal game last year at Milledgeville, and you guys, I swear both communities were there. Now, that's the Battle of the Blacktop, 2 towns about 11 miles apart. Everybody from Polo went over to Milledgeville. You would never have thought it was 8-man football because there were so many people there. It truly felt like a real 11-man football playoff game, and I think it's great for those communities that they still get behind their sports teams and 8-man football, their football teams when they're winning.
Absolutely. You know, before we let you go, Sam, we're going to introduce something new this year. Is Eddie's suggestion, just kind of have an eliminator pick. So every week, each of us, and I know you will be with us multiple times throughout the year, but when we have another guest coming in talking about their area, we'll have them pick and see if they can keep it alive for you to when you come back. But Eddie, if you would explain kind of what we're doing and kind of the ground rules. I kind of emailed Sam about it and I kept tripping over my words in an email. So I'm certainly not going to try saying it on here.
It's a straightforward eliminator pick. We'll see who can get the longest streak by the end of the year. Rules: you pick whatever game from the corn area we cover, the cornfield area we cover. You pick the team you think is going to win, the most likely to win this week. Keep your streak going. The only catches are you can only pick a team once over the course of a year. And are we saying you can only pick against the team once or twice?
I think so.
Yeah, that's got to be the fair way to do it.
I think so.
So you can only pick against the team once, and you can only pick a team once. Is that how we're going to roll with this?
But if you pick against them, you can pick them to win later, right?
I would assume.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. That sounds like a good plan.
Beautiful.
These are my rules, but I'm just kind of going along with you guys. But I think it sounds like a fair.
I think it'll be fun, and I nominate Eddie to keep track of all these and make sure no one repeats. Seconded, Sam?
I second it. Yeah.
It passes. Okay, I'll start.
As long as I get the title of official FND podcast recording secretary.
Yes.
Right.
My first pick, I'm going to go a little bit south down in my coverage area. I'm going to take Downs Tri-Valley, powerhouse, oftentimes 2A state title game participant. I'm going to take them to beat Fieldcrest in a Heart of Central Illinois crossover. I think Fieldcrest is on the right track with Coach Nick Meyer. He's very passionate. Anyone who watches boys basketball or baseball or girls volleyball sports knows that Fieldcrest, that area, that Minonk, Dana, Rutland, Toluca, that area produces a lot of good athletes, always has. And I think there are better days ahead for the football program. I just don't think this Friday is one of those days. Tri-Valley a bit much. So I'm going to take Tri-Valley over Fieldcrest for my week 1 eliminator pick.
Sam, what do you got?
I'm going to go to the Northwest Upstate Illini, the NUIC. And last year, Dakota struggled. They went 0-9 last year. This is Dupec's last year in the Upstate Illini. They're jumping to the Big Northern next year. I think Dupec. And I'm going with the safe bet. I think this week I like Dupec to beat Dakota on Friday night.
Okay, so going NUIC in that one. I wanted to talk about we haven't gotten to yet. We might after we let Sam go here in a minute. But Caneland, I'll save this for later, but I kind of like Caneland a lot this year. They are playing, and I am now absolutely blanking on the
Rock
team.
Island.
Rock Island, there you go. I know it was a team that struggled. I know it was a Western Big Six team. They're playing Rock Island, a Rock Island team that has kind of struggled. I mean, obviously, they Coach Lorgeson said they have obviously you can't sleep on the athletes they have there, but I really like Caneland this year. I don't necessarily like burning them in week 1, but obviously I'm not picking that Sycamore DeKalb game in a life or death situation.
No.
So I mean, like we said, Sycamore probably there, but no. I'm picking Caneland over Rock Island for my week 1 eliminator.
And that's a road game for Caneland on the road at Rock Island.
Oh, road game in week 1.
Game.
Yeah, I'm picking a road game.
I guess I am too. So
those are our week 1 picks. So Sam, you said you got Oregon GK this week?
Yeah, so just a little plug, Oregon Genoa-Kingston. We'll have it on 95.7 The Rock. It's our brand new station, WURX. Pregame 6:40 and kickoff 7 o'clock. No preliminary game at Genoa-Kingston. Varsity only game 7 o'clock Friday night.
Sounds good, Sam. Thanks as always.
Thanks, guys. Have a great
we'll see you in a couple weeks, man.
You bet.
Take care. And Eddie, let's dive into that Caneland Rock Island, as I think that's the last game we really wanted to highlight. Maybe a couple more we wanted to mention, but you talked about kind of being a good spot for Caneland. I feel like is this the 3rd year we've done this podcast, 4th year? Yeah. I feel like every year you're pretty high on Caneland, and I don't think you're ever wrong about that. They've obviously been on a great run.
Well, last year, they started 4-0.
Yeah,
it's some really good teams. I mean, the teams they beat in that stretch, I think 3 of the 4 of them were playoff teams. I think 2 of them made at least the second round or quarterfinals. So I mean, they started beat Wakanda, beat Washington. It's a really strong year for them to start. Then they run into that buzzsaw that it's called the Interstate 8, and Rochelle Morris and Sycamore got the best of them handily in all three. They also lost a really close one to the 1A champs, Althoff Catholic, and then they lost their playoff game. So, but it obviously all those teams that they played were at least quarterfinalists and more. So it was just a really weird schedule and just some tough breaks. They almost beat that Althoff team. It was like a one-score game. But yeah, no, this year, and I think they're even stronger this year. They didn't lose a lot from last year. That was a kind of inexperienced team last year. A lot of those players are back, and then they're adding in some new pieces that are exciting. They're bringing in Jalen Carter, who's probably been mentioned on one of the other podcasts multiple times. He's had some time at Aurora Christian. He's had some time at St. Francis. He's now transferred back. I think Thorgeson, Michael Thorgeson, the coach at Canelan, mentioned actually that Carter's dad played for Thorgeson's dad when Thorgeson's dad was coaching at Canelan. So it's kind of like a homecoming type thing. So it's really interesting. They also bring back Evan Friedrichs, wide receiver, really tall target. He set out last year to kind of focus on basketball. We know that Canelan obviously had an amazing season last year, basketball-wise, 29-2 or something like that.
Yeah,
I think they ended up. So just and he's back this year to give Carter another target, along with Carter Grabowski is back. Pretty much plays literally any position on the field, offense and defense. Some other pieces there. I know I always start every year high on Canelan, but this year, Sycamore Morris and Rochelle are still Sycamore Morris and Rochelle, but Canelan, they're going to be really interesting to watch this year.
I was just kind of thinking that same thing. And when you mentioned Canelan's been kind of knocking on that door, but not quite able to get through, La Salle Peru is that team that's probably right below Canelan, in that conference, and kind of knocking on the door, multiple 5-4 seasons that end up 5-5, or 4-5 seasons where they just missed the playoffs. I think last year they ended up 3-6. They had a week 9 loss. That was kind of a surprising one. I want to say down south, maybe Granite City, or I can't remember who it was, but I do know that they, LP starts off with United Township. They beat them 18-16 last year. I want to say they beat United Township maybe 14 times in a row now in this rivalry that they have. So La Salle Peru is another of those teams that, is going to try and knock on the door. They have, one of the top sophomore quarterbacks in the state in Marion Persich. So
can I change my eliminator pick?
Oh, there you go. But I think those are two teams. I mean, the Canelan and LP both, that it's like, okay, they've got some very talented athletes. They have a history of kind of getting into the playoffs at 5-4, but not quite being able to knock off, like you said, the Morrises, the Sycamores, often years, the Rochelles. So it'll be for those teams, that Interstate 8's looming for you. You got to get these early games. Some of the other ones that I wanted to mention,
before you moved on, I wanted to, with La Salle, that you talked about the quarterback. Is that Marion Persich? Is that the guy? I obviously Kevin Klum, who, again, Friday Night Drive for all this content, but and in the magazine, we should probably plug the magazine, available for sale online.
I have that right here.
Mine's in the office. Let's go. Come on, buddy.
I have put a plan on top of it.
Great features from every market on players. I believe Persich. Am I saying his last name right? Is it Persich?
Yes.
He was the spotlight from down La Salle way, down Kevin's way. Seems to be really intriguing. Seems to be a really high level prospect that might be one of the best to have come through La Salle in a while, if I'm not mistaken about it.
Yeah, it doesn't. I know it's happening increasingly more. But down here, bigger schools, the 1A, 2A, you can have freshmen who are just so great they're your starting quarterback. It doesn't happen at schools with traditions like Streeter, Ottawa, La Salle Peru, and I'm sure it's true about up there. Freshmen don't take over as varsity quarterbacks very often at schools this size. So this kid's a real deal. He's also a heck of a basketball player. He's just a great athlete. It's going to be very exciting. If we were doing the picks to click, I don't know if we are since we started the eliminator thing, but if I had to pick one player that I think is going to have a big week, I think it's going to be, Marion's coming out party against United Township. The kid's just a next level athlete. And, we don't get a lot of kids with D1 interests as underclassmen down in our little area. So when we do, we get excited.
Quarterback. Usually it's like lineman.
Exactly.
So no, Pick the Click is gone. It's over. We've pivoted. Move on. It's the Eliminator. Get on board.
Forget it. Sorry, sir. But I was going to mention just a couple other games worth mentioning that I just think will be good week one matchups. They might not be between powerhouses, but Mantino and Sandwich, both playoff teams last year. They'll be at Sandwich. Mantino won 54-32 in a shootout last year. I don't think it's going to be that high scoring this time. Mantino has a lot that they have to replace.
Sandwich has a new coach, if I'm not mistaken.
Sandwich has a new coach, Jason Van Pelt. The baseball coach takes over the football program. So I think I assume they are still going to be running the wing tee. You can read some of Josh Welge's sandwich content, but they kind of a few years ago, they hired a coach and got away from it for a couple years, and it was not a popular decision. So I think anyone who comes in at Sandwich, I think it might be in their contract that they have to run a wing tee offense, or at least show it a wing tee offense, if not have it as their base. Another one, again, not that top level teams, but Decatur Eisenhower is at Streeter. This was a 2012 Streeter win last year down in Decatur. So I think that could be a really good game. Streeter with a new coach, Jay Sloan, Bishop Mac graduate, Valpo defensive lineman, very impressive young man. Sometimes you meet these. Now that I'm old, when I started, all the coaches were older than me, and now it's, you meet some people and it's like, man, he's going to go places. This is one of those people, Jay Sloan. I hope it works out for him in Streeter. Many have tried. Few have succeeded. So I definitely hope so. They can get on the right foot, hopefully, against Decatur Eisenhower, who has I remember his first name's Gary on. I can't remember his last name, but they have a quarterback who's just a heck of an athlete. So matchup problem. Ottawa was 1 win last year, Plano 2 wins, and they always play in week 1. It always seems low scoring. It always seems close. Plano won 17-14 last year. And this is just kind of one of those strange bedfellows games. Pontiac is going to Coal City this year. We mentioned Coal City.
From Ottawa, Plano, and that was a former. They've been conference rivals. I know when they
briefly, yeah. And the Interstate 8 for
if there's old history,
long time. But yeah, I think maybe 2 years that Interstate 8 before Sandwich and Plano said we're going to give the Kishwaukee River a try.
Yeah.
So I think maybe 2 years. That was a weird situation anyway with the Kishwaukee River, because they kind of made a super conference and we'll play each other and it'll be good. And then they're just like, nah, we kind of like them better. We're out of here.
Take these two teams.
Yep.
Have fun, boys.
I can see the remaining members of the Interstate. I thought we were friends. I thought we were helping each other out with scheduling, not tearing it apart.
There are no friends in the conference scheduling system.
I guess not. But I mentioned Coal City, used to be Morris's week 1 opponent. Now it's Wilmington. So Coal City, another big school, another one with a great history, although Pontiac's fallen on some hard times in recent years. Only 1 win last year. But I think that Pontiac at Coal City game might be kind of interesting. Pontiac's a pretty big school. Coal City's obviously has a fantastic football program, trying to replace Landon Benson, who, was their probably top offensive player, top defensive player, their place kicker, their punter. I think he mixed the Gatorade powder before the games, did a little bit of everything. So, I think there's a lot of really interesting week 1 matchups. If you haven't yet, Susie wrote a story on Friday Night Drive, plug, just about, is this the best week 1 ever? Just so many great matchups statewide. I'm glad we get to talk about some of our more cornfield, beanfield matchups that we have and go about it. I'm excited, Eddie.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, rivalry. We talked them all. Zeus is on to something. This just seems like a really good week 1 this year. I know week 1 seems great to me every year. Not only for it being back and everything, football being back, but DeKalb, Sycamore starting off the year that way. Things get so buzzy. Around here with that one at the stadium. So we'll see how everything ends up going. By the way, I think you're a little hot. I don't know if you're selling it, but I really like Coal City from what I've read from various people's capsules. That's the great thing about, when we're sharing and reading, I get to learn about Coal City when I otherwise wouldn't. Now, granted, don't know much about Pontiac since they're out of market. Or are they in Kankakee, or they're not, right?
No, not quite.
Yeah. Still trying to learn the new markets. But
kind of where the Kankakee market and the Ottawa Streeter market go, it kind of makes a shape like this, and Pontiac's kind of sitting right there.
There you go. I like Coal City in this one, like handily, but
I think so too. But you know what? You bring up a great point, and not to plug again, but that is one of the greatest things about the Friday Night Drive website, that vertical website, or however, people want to say it is. I learned so much more about football teams that aren't from anywhere around me. And, if you have a subscription to, the Daily Chronicle or the La Salle News Tribune or the Northwest Herald, that gets you into Friday Night Drive to read about all of these teams and all the teams on our sister podcast. So definitely recommend it. If you like high school football, which I think you would, if you're going to spend 45 minutes listening to us ramble, I think you definitely would enjoy the content we have on there this Friday night and moving forward.
35 minutes of you and I rambling and 10 minutes of dynamite from Sam.
Yes. Better.
So I think that about does it for us. Again, appreciate y'all joining us. Shout out to Sam Ramirez for joining us, Oregon GK. Check him out on the call for that one. JT, where are you at this week?
I will be at the Eisenhower at Streeter game, staying close to home so I can edit all the awesome stories.
I'm not saying which game I'm covering. I'm playing it close to the hand which game I'm covering. Obviously,
which game you're covering.
So he's JT Pedelty. I'm Eddie Carifio. Thanks a lot.